Sincerely, please excuse me for running a little bit late. I do feel the Bible verse I was looking up and wanted to find that I did find was good. Then I realized I didn't have anything to drink. One of us fixed a kitchen aid garbage disposal today. Do re mi. Oh, so I'm glad I got that done. I feel like I've been very productive. And I want to start with showing, well, first off, welcome everybody to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. Mud Flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. And that means no fisticuffs. All right. So nobody's here. You know, I can't believe because I made a video a little bit late. Still, nobody showed up. Usually in a minute, there's somebody to say hi to, but I'm going to show the disclaimer because this is a video that dozens of people more than likely will watch. Where is that picture? There it is. Isn't that? There it is. Fair use disclaimer. So, and let's look at, see some of the pictures because this will come in handy. So there is somebody here. I was worried that nobody was going to be here. So we got to get off of that screen. I'm going to make sure I showed the disclaimer. And now some pictures from today. Most recently, the kingdoms, world powers listed in the Bible. Because we're dealing with the mafia world power. So does the Bible teach that the power can be in the hands of one or two men, say the head of a mafia, but he's so busy and spread out, he's got people to help him? We know the Bible talked about how empires were built. Joseph was sold into captivity. Egypt got the heads up on that was 7 skinny cows coming out. Oh, remember that from the Technicolor Dreamcoat? The Pharaoh had a dream that the 7 skinny cows and 7 fat cows. And so they prepared for the famine. First, they sold them the grain for the money, then their slavery, then their land. And Egypt was big. Assyrians, Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar, that's the verse I was looking up. Mede-Persian, think Esther, Mordecai, and Grecian. By the time Paul had been preaching for a few years, the first letter to the Corinthians, it talks about how, greet the nobles in the house of Caesar. So Christianity spread fast, and there were kingdoms that were in charge. Grecians were the Romans, the Greeks, the Goy, those bad Romans. We have no king but Caesar. Some of their not friends said, look at how serious she's listening to this girl when the girl was telling her it's the children's mother. If she really wants to use her abilities in society, she wants to be more than just a wife and the children. She feels alone, guilty, simply if she wants to be more than her husband's wife, children's mother, wife. She wants to use her abilities in society. And it makes her feel freakish and alone. They can never live up to the ideal woman that the consumer world has set a trap for them. The television, that's Betty Friedan. She wrote a book called The Feminine Mystique. The Feminine Mystique. Mystique. Commercial venture they're supposed to want, and yet they're still unhappy women. That's what he's talking about. 1964. It's a PBS documentary, The Year That Changed America. There's a typical family. Look, there's me. There's RJ. I'm trying to make him laugh, but he will not. He's so serious all the time. He's about to get his butt whooped. I'm just kidding. That's not us. What is that? What is this thing? Is that a glass? This is a coffee pot. So this beautiful woman with the beautiful family has a beautiful home, well provided for, everything you could need except a mystique. It's something that women can't put into words. They just gotta have it. That's what Betty Friedan said. Oh, there's something that has no name. A strange stirring. What? Today they call it depression. How old is this video? Oh, it's gradually I came to realize that the problem that has no name. Shared by countless women in America. As a magazine writer, I often interviewed women about their problems with their children, or their marriages, or their houses, communities. But after a while, I began to recognize the telltale sounds of the feminine mystique, the unknown depression that affected millions. It says here, that's what Betty Friedan said. They had everything they want, yet they were still unhappy. It has no name. Well, artichoke had a name, didn't it? Brand new from Control Alt History. So smart, yet live, and he seems like a human computer. Candy Jones. Candy, 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 I can't let you go. Artichoke was an offensive program of mind control that gathered together the intelligence divisions of the United States Army, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Space Force, and the FBI. In addition, the scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 1952 that stated, open quote, can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation? CIA document. That's short for Catholics in America. That's an outrageous thing to say. I did disclaim all this, right? Don't listen to me for your financial advice unless it's biblical financial advice, because we're about the Bible here. We're practicing our religious freedom to the one pure and undefiled religion is rightfully divided from all of the other things that people claim about the Bible. So you got to keep rightly dividing. And I think I got it pretty rightly divided as let's go. We don't like that CIA stuff. You're bad people. These computer ones, right? But they know what people are talking about. This is what's in the news, so the computers kick it out. Let's see it on the YouTube.
Why the Bible begins with the phrase, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," and why right after, the text plunges into darkness, chaos, and deep waters. Something doesn't. According to some ancient rabbis, there was a text that came before Genesis 1,
okay.
and which was removed by order of the elders of Israel themselves.
Huh. Where do they get this stuff? And the computers know what the people's ears are itching for. This is, I prefer the guys that just admit they're in it for the money. I mean, they know it's mysterious. Look at the size of that bell. Jared Booster's never, this is a year old. And look at that picture. Is that part of one of those salamander dragon things? Because this looks like it would fit only on the bottom row. So that'd be a bottom row fit, and then they're missing a piece somewhere. Or maybe that would slide right up there to the top, but it doesn't look rounded. It looks like it would go in right there. But what is this? It's there were world powers, and they liked bells, and they liked little small marimbas, I think. Is this a band or what is that? It's not a washboard. Stop it.
disarming sound, seemingly indicating the routine dismantling.
I just like the pictures because there was a time when they said, you know what? All these bells that are engraved, glory to the Lord, any bell that says glory to God, find it, melt it. You don't, if it doesn't say that, keep it. And we'll claim that because we were going to go to war, world wars that caused this. Hey, did we get a date on that? Look at that. What have we got going there? Anybody know how to read partial? Because you'd have to infer, or if you can't see the start of where Roman. Hey, there it is. L749. That's not a J. It doesn't look like an I. Anybody? Anybody? Is that an L? Now we got L's. What do you got to say for yourself, Mr. Boosters? I think I've got a sketchy internet tonight. I'm down to the one bar thing. Is it lagging and stuff? Because that just took forever to load. It's still not loading. Let me reload the whole thing. You can see how it goes there.
Narrative makes note that the finest and possibly the earliest Christian bells were founded in Russia, which at the time may have also been known as Tartary or Grand Tartaria. We're told these Russians, the Tartarians, often added silver and gold to their bell metals.
Something's up with the bells, right? It's the music. And they gathered them up, they melted them down. And there's supposed to be bells on the horses that they'll say, glory to the Lord. And yet all the bells are gone or they have big pieces missing. This was a bell crazy world, not Art Bell. Stop it, you guys. Look at that. And they got one hung, man. That looks like humans did it. They made it work because they wanted to hear that bell. If I had a bell and I knew what a small one sounded like and I had this one, I'd do whatever I could. I'd get 3 trees, I'd line it up. I'd get some smart people and help me figure it out because I'd want to hit it. Bang that bell.
And rather small in size, often unable to produce the amazing bell frequencies we are familiar with today. It wasn't until roughly the late 600s and the early 700s that bell making was first perfected in Europe.
I wonder if they had gay people in charge of the universities, or wherever they studied. If the kings, well, here's the way kings rolled back then. Okay, this is a burst from earlier today. We'll keep it open. Isaiah is always to go back down. Here's Ezra chapter 6, verse 11. Furthermore, it starts in the New International Version. I just like that. Furthermore, those who violate this decree, if anyone alters this edict, a beam shall be pulled out of his house, torn down from his house and raised up, and he is to be impaled on it. His own house shall be made a pile of rubble, not Barney rubble, but rubble, for the offense of what? Okay, we better read one. We'll start a little bit further back. King Cyrus, he's a world ruler. I wonder if what a woman would be in his queen like. Would it be like the Persian king when he called her? Thank you, Lord. Now I know we're going back in time to the book of Esther after we do this. King Cyrus, a world power, very much concerned with his image and to be feared, he issued a decree concerning the Most High God, concerning the house of the Most High God in Jerusalem. He had to go through a lot. 7 years of, I'm guessing, mental torture, anguish. But he's saying, now I know, because God revealed it to him. He had to humble himself. Now, he was so powerful of a king, and he had such good help around. He still was the king when he came to his mind. He was always going to be the king until, I guess, somebody killed him, issued a decree declaring it for Jesus. Let the house of Jesus be rebuilt as a place for offering sacrifices. They still did that. And then Jesus became the sacrifice, and let its foundation be firmly laid. You get it? He wanted 3 layers of cut stones because it had to go 60 cubits high, 60 cubits wide, and that's got to be well built. 1 of timbers, the cost to be paid by the king, the royal power, because religion was real. There was nobody that would go up to the, well, what do you guys, what's troubling your mind, Nehemiah? I can tell by your countenance. Oh, my people, their temple are sad, it's burnt down. Well, go check it out, go fix it. And furthermore, the gold, silver articles, Nebuchadnezzar that it took him from Jerusalem, Cyrus is saying, give them back. Give them back. He decreed this guy's going to do it. These guys are going to help. You, and don't mess with them. You must stay away from that place. Leave this work on the house of God alone. And this isn't somebody like who's like that guy from North Korea that everybody makes, Kim Sung-un, whatever, right? That guy, if he started making a decree, you know, that if he said, I'm warning everybody in the world, you know, including you, Kim Sung-un, stay away, leave these guys alone. Don't, but they didn't listen because the Jews were going to be about, he decreed it, you must do it. They're rebuilding the house of God. Cost is going to be paid in full, royal treasury, young bulls. This is a man doing it. I don't know. Where's the queens in history that are going, I love other women. And I believe that children can choose their own sexual identity at an arbitrary age, depending on the state that you live in, and they vote. I guess that's how it works in some places. They've been setting it up. When I first heard that they were grooming, you know, and doing this, you know, it seemed preposterous. So this is what it's about. So they're going to be able to offer the sweet sacrifices because these are God's people. They serve the great God. Remember, King Cyrus didn't see any skanky Jews. He got the best of the best. Some were eunuchs. I mean, Enochs. Oh, see how the world has got us programmed. And this is the thing. You're going to get impaled on a beam of your house. May God, who has caused his name to dwell there, overthrow any king or people who lifts his hand to alter this decree. He's not talking about the scripture. He's talking about this, his decree to protect the people of Moses's book. This is Darius. He did it. He's that guy. This is another Gentile guy, Xerxes Day. He ruled 127 provinces. And when he partied, he partied. He had a party for a full 180 days. He didn't invite only the other kings. He wanted military leaders from Persia, Media, nobles. Even if it was the prince, you're coming. Of all 127 provinces. And it was going to be a thing. And when he had Queen Vashti, everybody was partying. It's 180 days. Queen Vashti was having a party with the women. And on the seventh day, bring Queen Vashti before the king, wearing her royal crown, to show everybody the beautiful queen of this wonderful country that's sponsoring this lavish party. Queen Vashti refused, said, no, I'm busy. Now the king became furious and his anger burned within him. So he didn't go cut off his head, because that's not the way the history of the Bible goes, man. That's all nonsense. He consulted wise men who know the times, because this was new. This was a poisoned thought. This would have never been done. Certainly not on this level of Babylon. But Babylon, wise men who knew the times, as it was customary. I need experts here. I'm really mad, but I don't want to act rashly. Unlike their portrayal of ancient kings of Conan the Barbarian, from somebody that, from all, seems like a real piece of crap. When you get set up like he was set up, including, pretending to love Maria Shriver until, the middle-aged, overweight Hispanic maid came in and said, well, you that Arnold? You that Arnold? Oh, she doesn't even sound like an Hispanic. So what should we do? Well, they talked about it. They talked about it. And then they got together, and this guy was going to speak for him. Queen Vashti has wronged not only the king, but all the princes and the people in all the provinces, 127. Don't confuse me with the days they partied again. For the conduct of the queen will become known by all the women. And as soon as they have that mystique or the depression or the unnamed word, I don't know, maybe it's not depression or mystique. That's only what they said. I'm thinking it's sin, because women don't want to be in submission. If everybody's not in submission, why should they be? There's going to be a natural enmity. King Xerxes said, she did come to me, she did not come. So now the noble women are going to hear about it. They're going to say, you know what? I don't have to listen to my husband. And that's not what people in Babylon believed. It's not what people in Israel believed. It's not what people in Egypt believed. It is not what one time in history ever believed, except right now. And possibly before, I guess, before the mud flood Armageddon. How cool was that? So worldly power in the Bible, it's the religious, secular realm. They all believed in God. It's new to have countries that don't believe. As a matter of fact, most countries, and even the United States, to try to fit in, has to pretend and print, we believe in God on the money. But the world's infected with people who are taught by globe-loving Jesuits who brought the world the gravity, the big G, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, John Birch societies, fake conservatives, all going to hell believing in a Trinity because they've read in the scripture themselves the overwhelming proof that forget everything you've ever read or heard about the Old Testament and the one God they served and would fight to the death. There's only one true God creator. Now, supposedly in the New Testament, it's everywhere. It's obvious. And if you don't believe it, there were denominations that would rip your skin off and burn you alive because it's supposed to be so clear in the New Testament that, yeah, there's a new mystery, and it's that God is three people, three persons, but one God. They all agree. It's not what they taught in the Old Testament. Avoiding that there is a mystery that is explained. The mystery is that true Israel is Gentiles, that Jesus was a light to the Gentiles. King Cyrus probably started the age of the Gentiles. It was the Gentiles who paid the bills so much that the people that Jesus came back to judge, because he knows every man's heart, chose Barabbas and said, we have no king but Caesar. And they've left us this world where they want to go back to rewrite history. You know, they like to reimagine history. Remember the Nazi ones where the man in the high tower and stuff? They would have you believe Vashti did the right thing and that the world today would be behind her going like, you go, girl, you tell that king. That's why behind every world famous supermodel, there's another millionaire behind her that can't wait to divorce her. Men, you know what? The Bible, it want men and women, they want men to, oh, I wanted to call my old lawyer. There he is, to see if he could help me sue the school. This guy helped me, man. He's a good one. If you're ever in trouble in Grand Junction, Colorado, give him a call. I wonder why it opened up 3 times. Go.
But look at the after. That's the after, y'all. It's terrible.
Oh, we watched this today too.
For as late as like the early 1900s or the late 1800s. Look
Just whispering.
how these amazing structures either disappeared, have wiped.
I like these showing the same location today.
You know, the late 1800s or the repopulation. All these beautiful ornate structures have either been dismantled,
Fake atom bomb.
destroyed.
All from like 1945, 1958, 1964. Do we really know what we're getting into?
And finally, somebody brings a bullhorn and says, why don't we stand on top of the car so that people can hear? So that's what we did. One person at a time who was going to speak did that. Every single one of them taking their shoes off so that we wouldn't damage the car. That was the kind of mentality. And so there was a spirited debate.
What emerged was not simply, let's go support civil rights, but let's have a university that's sort of worthy of our better selves.
And so these were the people that brought you Barack Obama. And they were the Weather Underground. Bernadette Dorn, right? Remember, she had her purse-carrying Bill Ayers. Turns out they're gay. I got to show you that one, though, or you're not going to believe me. Candy Johnson. I never even heard of her. Not Candy Jones.
Okay, this will be a video about Candy Jones, who was one of the biggest supermodels alive during the 1940s and 50s, but the entire time she was a personality inside of her mind that only came out when she was hypnotized. And this was a totally separate personality. Candy Jones herself had no memory or knowledge of what happened when she was
They did it.
hypnotized. And this made her the ideal messenger in
We know they did it. Look at it. They're still doing it. They want the world to do like that. Oh my goodness, I should warn you like I warned Joaquin and, you know, in his very serious moment today. We have a short window right now where we can operate like this, but we're preparing to where the Bible doesn't teach, we teach them a lesson. No, they come hunt us down because the cities are burning and they don't have anybody else to blame except maybe people that didn't get the jab. They're going to be going crazy. Really crazy. That's what we're preparing for. You're not preparing for, we're going to ride this out and then DEI is going to go away forever. Oh, well, maybe for a while, but they were always there because that's their thing, man. When has the Roman Catholic Church not been associated with? When have they not been associated with it? How about never?
Today, you see all these major celebrities and singers and actors always
Half of these guys were famous at one time, not anymore, but at the time they thought this is how you do it. Look at Justin Bieber. What, he's old, fat, balding, and tattooed people that's been exposed that. Guess how I got famous?
getting this
Baby.
one eye, like this circle over the one eye in photo shoots and things like that. It's a real mystery about what exactly like this means or what this is indicating. It's definitely not a coincidence. A raid to rescue some U.S. POWs who were being held at this prisoner of war camp named San Toi in Vietnam. And Candy Jones claimed she was
So
giving a
Candy
message
Jones, you know,
to
she
deliver
found
to
this
a
out.
general.
She was under hypnotism.
Drugged, people being experimented on, and all this type of stuff to control people's minds. But again, this information hadn't been released and wasn't known to the public in 1976 when the Control of Candy Jones came out. And there was all this information about Project Artichoke that came out. This was the precursor to MK Ultra, and Project Artichoke dealt with all these mind control experiments that were going on throughout the 1940s and early 1950s, which is the exact time frame that Candy Jones said all this stuff was going on with her.
Yeah, and so it tends, you know, so maybe.
These two books are outstanding. They name tons of names, basically every president in the mid to late 20th century, Bob Hope, a ton of celebrities,
Henry
entertainers,
Kissinger, George
and again,
Bush,
you really get into the
Reagan,
whole idea of how they were programmed
Happy
to deliver messages. And
Rockefeller.
they also go into a lot of detail about how they were programmed to be used for sex. And Candy Jones doesn't really get into that in her book. She really like alludes to it a lot, but doesn't get into the whole sex aspect of it. But these two books really get into pretty graphic detail, actually, about just the whole sex aspect of
Most people have heard of
using it for
Kathy
sex.
O'Brien.
And then this excerpt from the Bryce Taylor book here talks about basically exactly what Candy Jones talked about in her book decades earlier. This Bryce Taylor says, I had many personalities specially programmed to be the perfect sex slave, a presidential model with government mind file.
So she ended up getting a divorce from a male model who turned out to be gay and started going to a hypnotist therapist. This guy.
Personality inside of her. And again, he was one of the foremost experts in the world on hypnotism throughout the mid 20th century. He was involved in some really interesting stuff. And he started to gain notoriety around the mid 1950s because there were all these reports of how he was using hypnosis for surgery instead of anesthesia. So he was basically hypnotizing people to not feel pain before they went in for surgery. And then they would have surgeries performed on them under hypnosis. And since they had been programmed through hypnosis to not feel pain, they would just sit there and let the surgery happen. They wouldn't react or anything like that. There were all these reports of how he.
Isn't that weird? And even having, you know, babies without pain, and the mysteries kept going.
The most famous case, but there were a number of other cases that this William Kroger was used in. He was also, and this is perhaps most interestingly of all, but he was.
Now this man, Freddie Prinze, became a very funny person, and he died young at 22, supposedly after being hypnotized by this guy. He'll give you the background, but he doesn't lean as much on they were they had a plan to bring black people into society. I still think they were trying to marginalize the atrocities, because as horrific as the chattel slavery and the white power was, equally the Hispanic and the Native Americans, and the Native Americans at this time was, within a few years of in 1972 would have been right around the time of the Second Wounded Knee and the Black Panthers. And they could only deal with one at a time. So when he started speaking out for Latinos, very funnily I can't remember the name of his TV show, but it was funny.
Also very involved in Hollywood. So again, he was one of the foremost experts in the world on hypnotism, and he was very involved with a number of Hollywood stars and actors, people who he worked with. And he also did a lot of work with professional athletes. And probably his most controversial case happened in 1977 when Freddie
77.
Prinze, so he was the father
So
of Freddie Prinze Jr.
5 years
When
after.
Freddie Prinze committed suicide, he was only 22 years old. And this is a really weird case. I think this is going to be an upcoming video, actually, that I'll do, because this is a really
Control
bizarre
Alt
case.
History.
And this William Kroger was
He's
Freddie
kind
Prinze's
of new,
psychiatrist,
but
and he would hypnotize Freddie Prinze.
he's
He would
not a
use hypnotism
computer.
lot.
He's
Even
only,
worse, he was doing
I
with
think
Freddie
he's
Prinze, as you can
a
see in that
human
highlight.
computer.
And William Kroger even hypnotized Freddie Prinze the night before he shot himself. And Freddie Prinze actually spent the night at William Kroger's house the night before he shot himself. And then the next day, Freddie Prinze was, threatening to kill himself. And William Kroger was summoned to Freddie Prinze's house that next day. And at one point, Freddie Prinze even gave William Kroger his gun, but then William Kroger left, and Freddie Prinze ended up shooting himself. But it's just really strange how Freddie Prinze was very involved in hypnotism with William Kroger, and he ended up killing himself. And what's interesting is there's a total mystery about why he killed himself and what kind of prompted it. And a lot of mystery kind of in the investigation after he killed himself was around, well, what was going on when he was constantly being hypnotized. There was a lawsuit filed against William Kroger, and he ended up paying Freddie Prinze's family
$3 million, $3.5 million, what it's equivalent to today. So back to Candy Jones. How did it work out for her? She was on 10 magazines in 1 month.
Story of Candy Jones and her being hypnotized. There's always been a real controversy about, this book, The Control of Candy Jones, and Candy Jones's story. A lot of the controversy has to do with Long John Nebel, because he was
Long John.
He was kind of known as like a flamboyant talk show host who would do a lot of things for attention. And so, people wondered, well, was he just making this up to, gain attention? But he never took back the story. He actually died pretty shortly after this whole thing.
Long John Nebel might be comparable to some of you guys for my main demographic to Art Bell. You may have heard of Art Bell or actually have listened to him.
And came out. This book came out in 1976, and then he died of cancer in 1978. So he, wasn't around for very long after this book came out. One of the real difficulties with this Candy Jones story is that there's no real paper trail that was left that people can point to and say, oh, it really, substantiates or, confirms.
Anyway, he hypnotized her, and she started giving dates and stuff that coincided under hypnotism.
Difficulties with proving her story. But anyway, she did die in 1990, and she, to the day she died, she always claimed the story was legit. But I do find this Candy Jones story just absolutely really fascinating. Just the control of Candy Jones, the book.
But how did they get control of so many people?
Hit them like a jackhammer.
But if the senator said, that's going to kill me with my constituency, he would refute, he would cajole you or threaten you or bribe you. Anything he had to do to get your vote. Richard Russell, the leader of the South, says, flat out, we could have beaten Kennedy on civil rights. We could have stopped them in the Senate. But Lyndon Johnson, he says,
Like they, because that was their last thing. No, we can't have them vote.
he'll beat us. He'll tear your arm off at the shoulder and beat you over the head with it. But he will get this passed. We're going to lose.
In the end, on June 19th, after the longest filibuster in the Senate's history, 27 Republicans voted for the bill.
For me, as a young conservative, I had very mixed feelings.
For the young conservatives, LBJ was over the top. It was terrifying. We felt that we could see our world slipping away from us, and we wanted to change that.
In early January, the nation
There's that bad
assembled on the
internet.
lawn of a hilltop house in Phoenix. Arizona's two-term senator, Barry Goldwater, was about to make a dramatic announcement, one that would not only reshape the politics of 1964, but transform the American political landscape for generations to come.
First, I want to tell you that I will seek the Republican presidential nomination. And I have decided to do this because of the principles in which I believe, and because I'm convinced that millions of Americans share my belief in those principles.
Goldwater told us, he said, conservatives, we can take this party over. Before that, we didn't have the voice. We didn't have anybody speaking for us. The Republican Party was establishment Republicans, big government Republicans.
For years, conservative activists had been searching for a presidential candidate who would embrace the ideals they cherished.
And they found it. They believed in Barry Goldwater. I have to say, please excuse me, that's crazy. Let's see. Was Barry Goldwater the only Roe v. Webb. Yes, he was. GOP has only itself to blame. Barry the Man Goldwater. Republican Party, Jewish first and only from Arizona, conservative state. John Glenn. Or wasn't he? Who am I thinking of that ran? John McCain. He ran for president. Supported gay rights, abortion rights, adoption for same sex. Well, see there, one every now and then a blind squirrel finds an acorn. But he did that, and he became the deciding vote. And when the vote was taken, I believe it was the first woman judge appointed by LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, as a gift, because if I'm vice president, can I get her to be the first woman judge? Sure, you sure can. And she was the judge that actually swore him in, first woman to swear in a president on a plane. unnecessarily because you automatically become it. But he wanted the symbol of Sarah Hughes, Judge Sarah Hughes, not the famous skating champion from the Olympics, the list of champions. I was just going to see if maybe they had a picture. Hey, that's Goldwater. Look, that's funny. I'm going to get one that's Paco. What would that be? Polonium and cobalt. Paco. Goldwater. I like it. It's funny. He got his ass kicked. There he is. I took it like a man. Here, would you like a medal? For Doolittle, he fake dropped the atomic bomb. I did it. I'm the fake bomb dropper. I'm the guy that voted for abortion and claimed to be a conservative Republican for a while. Yay. And he in love with Kachina dolls. He cannot get enough of them. There she is. Sarah Tecumseh Hughes. I'm kidding. That was, come on, Tigman. Administering the oath of office in the famous picture. There she is when she did the Roe v. Wade. It made abortion legal and said, yep, I see that right to privacy is violated in the Constitution about a doctor and a woman can talk about anything. There she is. Her hair did. She was very unstylish for the time. Famous picture. Where anyway? So there's supposed to be some blood on this shirt. You see it? I guess there's a little bit. She does not look very happy. Smile. She knew, oh boy, something bad is going to happen here. Went to an all-school girl. She's a very tiny person. Like to play the basketball, even though she's a very tiny person. 1961, here's your gift. You get to appoint a judge that doesn't have to get voted on. That's a recess appointment. So be quiet, LBJ. Somebody's been murdered. Find Sarah Hughes. Coincidentally, Judge Hughes, and they were supposed to go to Austin that night for dinner with President Kennedy. I reached her home. They need you to swear in the vice president at Love Field. Please get out there. She said, is there an oath? Yes, but we haven't found it yet. Don't worry about it. I'll make one up. Because she's very resourceful. It said so. Other significant, more than involved, multiple decisions, including Roe v. Wade. Whenever there was something where it had to be outrageous, she would do it. And she became famous for it. Let's name high schools and everything after her. Yay for her. Yay for her.
Before 1964, the Republican establishment was picking all of our candidates.
Oh,
they
yeah.
given us two-time loser Tom Dewey. They were Me Too Republicans. Whatever the Democrats said, basically, they said Me Too.
And her son turned out to be gay, and she was working for the FBI, the Eagles Forum. I know the girls used to be crazy for Phyllis Schlafly. Who's this?
Your ass off.
You know, I'll probably get a copyright strike.
They followed him out, like kindergarten kids.
They just sell it, and then they sold the women what type of soap they should buy.
There, get up in the ring.
That was the fix. The fix was in. Not that he wasn't a great boxer, he was. But that was the fix was in. The Phantom Punch.
Been so kind of brainwashed by the women's magazines and the TV shows that even this woman who'd been very kind of bohemian and radical in her youth began to feel that there was something wrong with her for not being totally happy. The first time I learned this about her was in 1964. I was away at school and we had a weekly phone call, and she started telling me about this book that she was reading, The Feminine Mystique, and how indignant it made her and how it opened her eyes. And then all of this stuff.
She once was blind, but now she realizes it doesn't have a name. You know, when I tell people that when I turned 16 years old and went downstairs and there was a red Mustang. It wasn't a hardtop. It wasn't a convertible. But then again, I turned 16 in 1974, and it was just a used car. It was 8 years old. The back was rusting out, and nobody knew that they would be collectible. All it was exactly what it was meant to be. Sheet metal and a big engine that could do a burnout for a quarter of a mile. It lasted me about a year and a half, but looking back, I think I used it correctly because you can't take a Mustang like that. But honestly, and believe me, there's pictures of it on the other channel that'll be restored someday when, you know, the YouTube gets freed, or you'll see it in heaven. I'm not lying. Not my thing, man.
Hit the American.
It was a 289 with Hurst shift kit.
The Mustang was sportier than any American car that had ever been created. It was designed for young people, and in buying one, a person was making a statement about him or herself as much as buying a piece of transportation to get from here to there.
Albert's a Mustanger now. He bought a beautiful Mustang convertible. All of a sudden,
He hoped would embody the far-reaching goals of his presidency.
Franklin Roosevelt.
Oh, that, you know what? Did I close that one with Candy Jones? Because somehow Candy Jones' first husband was involved with a gay guy married to Candy Jones. The President Ford was his best friend and roommate in college. And then, you know, President Ford, Warren Commission, knock, knock. Did you order these packages from the magazine? No. Yes, you did. And you work for us now.
Johnson had decided to turn the corner. And if that meant that the Democratic Party was going to forego.
You know, the mafia said, you have to segregate, like you have to end segregation like the rest of the world. The United States hated it, but they had to do it. They didn't have to like it.
This act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our community.
Mississippi? Very much. This is something which I had to think out before I even decided whether to apply to the program. And that is whether or not I was willing not only to face a beating, but whether or not it was something worth being killed for. We all feel hopeful that we are going to be able to do something. When we sing songs together, I think a lot of us mean it, that we shall overcome. And
bill, not because he was opposed to civil rights, but because he was opposed to the role of the federal government enforcing civil rights.
Downtown, cop come up to me. Hey, you, what you doing down here? Get up against the wall. Where's your identification? Identify yourself. What do you know? What he got to talk to me like that? You ain't right. That's right. That's right. That's right, brother.
Well, I guess they're supposed to just deal with it. So they had to bring them along somehow. What are they doing with the? Are they doing biology class outside?
Project had nearly 900 volunteers at work on voter registration in Mississippi. But hanging over everything was the disappearance of the 3 civil rights workers who
They killed them because they hate him. Uh-oh. This is where the guy got famous at Christian Liberty Academy, I believe. Oh, wait, no, this is the Gulf of Tonkin, not this is 64. I'm thinking of 1969 when North Korea captured Spy, the USS Pueblo.
attacked twice. And suddenly, the Vietnam War was front page news.
Oh.
Johnson had hoped to put off the issue of Vietnam until after the election in the fall.
But people have to make money by selling guns. But
At first glance, the fall lineup that year was a reassuring collection of familiar faces. Andy Griffith.
yeah, they sold it all, didn't they? And then his son grew up, Ron Howard. You know, what kind of young man? What do you think he went through? Ron Howard on Andy Griffith. Gomer Pyle. Him and Rock Hudson, I guess they were in LKISS sitting in a tree.
Van Dyke.
He was 18 years old when she was filming this.
Television was
She's
still
18 years old.
primarily black and white. You could see it as
I never got tired of that. Oh, wait, I got tired of that.
a black and white world. You could see it as a
We don't know
very
what happened to
simple
that
world.
guy.
But you also see television
Stop it. Ooh. What?
or the right time. Because by this time, even though they're young, they have a lot more political experience than the people who are, you know, these.
So they got people who put in position. We should do this. I'll give you a beer. Okay.
Administrators who are trying to suppress them.
Wow. Old school 74. And then we got the internet, the Bretton Woods. We've been on the gold standard now over 50 years. If I wasn't going on 68 years old, born when there were 48 states, my mind would be putty right now. And I wouldn't remember what it was like when I watched Leave It to Beaver in real time. And everybody had wished that, man, I wish our maid was like Hazel. We only got rental maids. And then when I grew up, I didn't get a full time. I mean, we had a nanny, but we took our children there. And then when their children got old enough, they would come to our house. But it wasn't like she was a live-in nanny, and the maids were the ones that we rented just because, you know, come in once a month because we could do it most of the time.
Angry at what they perceived as a violation of their First Amendment rights, a diverse coalition of student groups decided to defy the new restrictions and set up.
And it was Bernadette Peters and these guys.
Finally, on the evening of October 2nd, the university and the demonstrators reached a deal.
You think we're going to have a gay thing? And they're still going to be in power. The people that are, I mean, who right now on the right would have thought that anybody would come out right now that works for the president of the United States and say, oh yeah, Epstein hung himself. No, they're cooking and eating children, and people that get in power all of a sudden change their tune. Yep, it was suicide, no doubt about it. I saw the files. Well, show us. You're bad.
Ronald Reagan.
Gay. You know, his son was molested for years and he acted like he didn't know.
On Election Day, November 3rd,
Everything changed.
Welcome to Bang It News. Today, Goldwater Girl, Flame. In 1964, Hillary Clinton campaigned and voted for Barry Goldwater, who promised to overturn the Civil Rights Act and resegregate America. Less than a ref equals. Hashtag examples. Class equals dead button examples toggle greater than C example. S. Less than / a greater than. This claim is mixture. What is true? Hillary Clinton supported Goldwater in the 1964 presidential election. Goldwater voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
What?
Hillary Clinton voted for Barry Goldwater. Goldwater vowed to resegregate America. Description: Hillary Clinton supported Barry Goldwater in 1964, but she didn't vote for a candidate who vowed to resegregate America. Explanation: despite her current status as a Democratic icon, former First Lady, U.S. Senator, Secretary of State, and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton had some
She got
significant
hit by the glass ceiling. It's the vaulted dome.
exposure to conservative politics in her youth. In her autobiography, Living History, Clinton
So Elif meaning 2000. This is that 1,000-year thing. I'm closing out tabs now. It's that Gozell site. They claimed that that guy found all these and faked it. A farmer. They claimed they called him a liar. They took him to court because they have no problem. Their father is the father of lies. Our old father. Thankfully, we're adopted by the almighty creator of the universe. This man was put on trial because his oxen or donkey, or the stories conflicting, found an underground room full of treasures, and the world was not ready for it. So they called him a liar. He's proven innocent, but too little, too late. Liars gonna lie, man. And you got to find out about these in different languages, you know. You got to translate them. Closing these tabs out, closing them out. 1972 Center of Nuclear Studies. Barry Fell. He's the guy that found that there were ancient metal forgeries. Yeah, there he is. He got discredited and called a quack after he was famous because he said, no, America's old, and it used to have ancient petroglyphs, and they just threw him out. You should study this guy. He's interesting. Barry Fell. I'm going to go to a track meet. There are no smoking rooms in Pueblo. No, there's no smoking rooms. I really tried. Oh, now you know my last four. So there you go. That's where I'm at, planning, realizing there's only a short time left if we want to act like the men of the Bible. You want to look back and be like, you know, was I somebody that the wife could just put the purse on your chest and you're supposed to grab it and wait until she comes back for it? Yikes. It's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. Me and my friends will never tell you anything else because we're called, adopted, chosen, predestined to have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. Adios.